Torah for the Nations.
Welcome.
We are the B'nai Noach connection with Israel. We're located in Tzfat Israel. My name is Pesach Sherbow. You can go to Torah for the Nations website, or you can go to Torah for the Nations or B'nai Noach connection to Israel and find us. Co-host is Terry Hayes from Kentucky.
Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. Sorry. I keep getting it backwards. I even changed it from Tennessee to Kentucky. All right, we'll get it right.
Hey, it's all in fun.
Yeah.
From the nations.
Torah for the Nations. And we're here trying to help people understand this whole business of God's creation as much as we can put it out to people. And we're here to answer questions, discuss things. And the thing that I wanted to bring up this week, I know last week we talked about the levels of Noahides, but you know, I think I'd rather call it, we have levels of human beings. Now, one of the biggest problems that people are having is they move away from whatever the religion they've been in into the reality of God's creation and what he actually created and who we are. He created this universe. He's our king, he's our creator, and he created each individual with a job, a purpose. Nobody any more important, nobody any less important. We're just human beings with a job to do. And the job that the Jews have been given is that we're supposed to enlighten people as to who the God of Israel is. That's what he calls himself, who God is. What does he want from the individuals? What is you? Hello, Lenore. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. We're trying to explain from what we know, and the Jews have been studying this ever since they met God in person about 3,400 years ago at Mount Sinai. And we spent 40 years learning from him and then studying his works for the last 3,400 years, studying his plan for human beings and what he wants out of us. We call it the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, nothing old about it. It's alive and well. And he wants us to, as individuals, fulfill our part. I'm going to tell you a quick story. And I don't remember the guy's name. He's a very famous, or was a very famous conductor of symphonies, of an orchestra. And he had a beautiful orchestra in Vienna. And he got ill one day and he couldn't conduct. So someone else was conducting for him. And at the same time, a reporter called him and says, I know you're home. I want to come sit with you while you listen on the radio to this composition being played. And I want to talk to you about it a little bit. He said, fine. So this reporter came to his house and sat with him. And they listened to the whole concert. And at the end of the concert, the reporter thought it was, wow, how neat it was, how great it was. You know, it was wonderfully done. And he looks at the face of this conductor, and I'll have to get his name because this is an actual occurrence that happened. And he said, wow, what a great performance. You really trained them well. Even if another conductor gets up, they just played it beautifully. And this conductor got a big frown on his face and said it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And the reporter says, wait a minute. I love classical music. I've heard your performances before. I even have recordings of it. I know what's going on. And I thought it was beautiful. He says, yes, you might have thought it was beautiful. He said, but there was a violin missing in the violin section. Think about this. Think about this. This guy, how many people are in an orchestra on stage? 50, 60? How many violins are in an orchestra? And he's upset because one violin was missing. And he says to the guy, he says, you know, it was almost complete. And he picked up the phone and he called the theater, and he talked to the other conductor, and he says, "Who was missing today?" And the conductor said, the other guy that substituted said, "How did you know?" He says, "There was a violin missing." Who was missing? He wanted to know who was missing. And true enough, there was one violin missing. To him, that guy that took all this trouble to train this orchestra to do this job knew that one violin was missing and nobody else knew. This is God when he looks down at earth. He created each one of us to do our part for him. And when one is missing, it's not complete.
Wow.
Now, that violin player called in sick that day and thought, okay, it doesn't make any difference. The real conductor's not going to be there. Everything will be cool. And the real conductor knew that this one violinist was missing. Didn't know which one, but knew one was missing. This is how God looks at earth. God created each and every one of us to do a job that is specifically for us. And when we're missing and we don't do the job, he knows we're not doing the job. We might say, well, he can't come and, fire me, or he can't do this, or he can't do that, or I don't even believe he exists. But he knows you exist, and he knows if you're not doing your job. Because he created you, me, each one of us to do what we're doing. I wouldn't be sitting here doing this today if I didn't know I'm supposed to do it. Why would I do it? He doesn't send me a paycheck once a week. He doesn't send a box full of food once a week. He doesn't put gas in my car, but he tells me to do the job. How do we know what is our job? That's a good question. I'll answer it in just a minute, or the best I can. Look, every single human being that's ever lived, will ever live, is living today, has something to do for God. We may not be sure what it is. Sometimes God will put good recap. Thank you, Terry. God will put a person here on earth to someday in their life may say something to somebody they don't know that affects their life in a positive way. And that was the only reason you were put here. For somebody else. You may never know it. Go ahead, Terry.
An example. Was it 15 years ago you spoke at a conference? Don't even remember what you said. And two families just a few weeks ago let you know how much you impacted them then.
Right. Exactly. One family converted. The other one became, I didn't even know what a Noahide was then, but they became Noahides over time. And I didn't know who they were. Matter of fact, one of the family that converted came here to Israel to see us and visit us and thank us for that one conference that somebody had in their backyard in Lynchburg, Virginia. I remember where it was. So you never know what it is that you're going to do that God wanted you to do. It could be you talk to a stranger on the street for any reason, ask directions, or they ask you directions. And the thing is that it stopped them from maybe stepping in front of a bus or something else happening to them. You never know. You just don't know what it is. The main thing that we have to do, the main thing he wants from every one of us is the same. It doesn't make any difference if you're a Jew, if you're not a Jew. It doesn't make anything of difference at all. He wants you to know who he is. He wants you to know who he is. Give him respect as the creator. If we lived in a kingdom, all of us together here right now in this group, and we had the same king, we could talk about him, we could do what we want. Some people say, I don't care what the king thinks. But if the king calls you up in front of him, you'll really get to feel what it is, because he has the power of life and death over you. Now, we don't have kingdoms around the world anymore, so to speak. The Queen of England's no longer really the queen of all the different countries. The queens and kings. They don't have any power at all. It's been taken away from them. But back in the day, well, all you had to do was smile not properly to a king, and he could have your head taken off, and you couldn't do anything about it. So, gone. Now, God's not like that, but that's his power. And every minute of every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're in front of him because he sees what we're doing. Nothing, you can't do anything in private. There's nothing he does. You can hide it from all your friends. You can hide it from loved ones. You can hide it from anybody, but you can't hide it from him. Now, when people start to come out of religion or out of Catholicism, Protestantism, Islam, or all these other things, when people start coming out of it, they carry with them certain baggage. And we were kind of talking about this at the pre-meeting meeting. And that is the baggage that was instilled in you over the years. A lot of people still they don't want really to have anything to do with the Jewish people. They still carry a form of anti-Semitism with them that they're not even aware of. I don't want to call it anti-Semitism, let's call it anti-Jewish. And the things that have to do with the Tanakh, the 5 books of Moses, the writings and the prophets. And what the Jewish people want to teach. Now, I will admit that there have been Jewish people teaching some improper things. But it's only been because none of us have studied it long enough, because this is a relatively new phenomenon that's happening in the world. I've been fortunate enough to have studied this for 15, 18 years, including Islam. I didn't want to study, but I read the Quran anyway. But Christianity, Protestantism, Catholicism, all this stuff, I studied it really, really close. I wanted to be able to talk about it if need be. I wanted to see the differences. And I've learned what the difference is between religion and just living for God. You know, God gave, and we're going back to ABCs, but God gave Adam 6 laws, which he taught to his boys, and he taught to other people, although they ignored it. And that's why we have the flood. And that's why we have Noah on the other side of the flood, who God reiterated the 6 laws and added 1 to it, 7. Now, these laws are for every single breathing human being, all of us. A lot of people do it today because, well, it's just logical. And yeah, 5 of them are very logical. You know, you're going to have a peaceful relationship with people. You're going to think of it anyway. And we always talk about this. It's in our DNA. We're created in his image. It's supposed to be in our heads. Oh, yeah, that's a smart idea. Let's not murder. Let's not steal. Let's not have infidelity in marriage. All these things are logical, and they're put in our heads by God when he created us. So whether he's there or not, it's going to come out of here. It's in us. So it's going to come out. Why is it in us? Because all of us have, and for the sake of discussion, I'm going to say we all have 2 souls, or a soul that's on 2 levels, any way you want to look at it. We have the animal soul, which is not bad in and of itself, because without it, we wouldn't exist. That's the flesh and blood part of us. And it has its own intellect, it has its own way of thinking, and it has its own emotions. And emotions basically rule the animal soul. Your thought doesn't rule it. Your heart does. Then there's the godly level of your soul, and we all have it. It gives us vitality. It animates the body. It keeps us alive. It keeps our heart beating, that vitality part. But within the vitality part is that connection to God also. So we have it in every single one of us. Nobody's any different. All we have to do is decide to connect with it. It's there. So we use it to help us go through daily life. And I see some of the questions that are asked in some of the Noahide things. What is it permissible to do? What is not permissible to do? What can we do here? What can we do there? But everybody knows the answers to the questions. That's the funny part. As long as it's not doing harm to somebody else, as long as it's not evil and greedy, do it. Can I do this on this day? Can I do that on that day? We all can. It's not a problem. Some people get jealous and say, well, that's a Jewish thing for the Sabbath, and I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that. Well, nobody's asking you to. God's not even asking you to. The world is created on essentially two levels. That's a bad way to put it. There are two groups of people in the world, and one group has their job to do, and the other group has their job to do. And Terry did it very nicely in his blog a couple of 2 times ago, I think. Or everybody has their job to do, and if it's not your job, don't worry about it. The person that's supposed to be doing it, I mean, you're not going to, if you need your car fixed, you're not going to take it to a heart doctor. That'd be silly. You go to a car mechanic. Is there some level of difference between these two people? I never thought so, and I'll never think so. A heart doctor is a mechanic for my body. An auto mechanic is a mechanic for my car. And the auto mechanic is a lot better because he doesn't say, well, it's carburetor, go to the carburetor specialist. You can get it all done in one place. But the heart specialist sends you to the foot doctor, and the foot doctor sends you to a different doctor. I'm just involved in something right now. I'm going through 3 doctors, because each one has their own little specialty in whatever it is that it is. But that's their job. It doesn't make them better than me. It doesn't make them below me. The guy that cleans up the doctor's office, to me, is on the same level as the doctor. I go to the doctor to find out something specific about a part of my body, but I wouldn't go there if it wasn't clean, so it looked like professional and looked good. This has probably been handled in the past, but is it wrong for me, Noahide, to keep Sabbath in the sense of respecting the day, resting, studying? I've been told it's a sin and punishable by death for me to keep Sabbath. Oh boy, this is what we were talking about. See, there's a lot of improper teachings out there. And in your thing here is at least 3 different improper teachings. 2 for sure. And that's good, because this has to do with who you're going to go to help you walk the path that God created you to walk, because that's what you're looking for, help to walk it. You're not looking for somebody to tell you, I'm telling you, do this and do this and do this. You're looking for help and guidance to get to walk the path that gives you the closest relationship with your Creator that you can possibly have, and that's what He wants from you. Now, let me explain this. I'm going to read this real quick and explain it, and Terry, jump in there if I forget something. Okay. Keeping the Sabbath doesn't make sure. Is that the one about keeping the Sabbath? The link? Okay, so you can take a look at that also, Carla. But there's a difference between keeping and guarding. And are you supposed, if you want to respect the day that God completed His creation, and He decided He's like God needs a day of rest, right? But you want to respect it, you can do that. But you don't have, if you want to do it resting, studying, whatever you want to do, you may do that. The only thing that you can't do, and God doesn't want you to do it, because you know what? It's kind of straining, is to follow. He doesn't want you to guard the Sabbath the way Israel does. He gave the Sabbath to Israel, what we call the Sabbath, not the seventh day, but the Sabbath to Israel for us to guard. Why did he give it to us to guard? He says, okay, kids, here's a responsibility for you. This is the way you're going to do Sabbath. You're going to do it forever and ever and ever that way. And what does that do for us? It keeps us in line. It keeps us moving forward. It keeps us together as a community. And there's a whole lot of nitpicky, unbelievable things that have to do with Shabbat. And we're just 0.2% of the world. And he says, okay, I'm going to give you some strength to handle it, but nobody else has to do it, only you guys. So let me just finish what I'm saying here, Marino. You don't have to guard the Sabbath. You can keep it and respect it in any way you want. You just don't have to do what the Jews do. Now, the next thing is, I've been told, is a sin and punishable by death. Every time you see that sin and punishable by death thing anywhere in the Bible, anywhere in the Tanakh, I'm talking about the 5 books of Moses, I'm talking about the writings, and I'm talking about the prophets, that you have to think of it like you look at the death penalty in the USA. There's a death penalty for killing someone in the USA. Today, how many people get put to death for anything in the USA? They get life sentences. They get turned over to manslaughter. You get to negligent. There's something about homicide where you didn't realize it was going to happen. You know, all kinds of things. The death sentence is simply the worst possible thing that can possibly happen. The worst possible thing that can possibly happen, the worst sentence you can get is death. It doesn't mean, oh, you did it, you sinned, chop your head off. We're not Muslims. We're not the way other religions used to be 500, 800, and 1,000 years ago. That's not our job. Our job is simply show people how to interrelate with Hashem, the God of Israel, our creator, our king. So whenever you see this type of thing where it says a death penalty, okay, well, all right. But according to Jewish law, in a court, and there was only one big court that could do that back in the day called the Sanhedrin, if they sentenced more than one person in 2 generations, 70 years, to the death penalty, they were considered a bloody court. That is the last possible thing. And let me tell you that in the Jewish side of it, let's say I violate Shabbat. Someone has to come and warn me that I did it, so that they know that I know that I'm not supposed to do it. If I do it a second time, I get another warning. So they for sure know that I know that I'm not supposed to get it. If I do it a third time, then they take me in front of the judges. Say, look, this guy's violating Shabbat in this manner. We've warned him twice, and you have to have proof. You warned him twice. You have to have witnesses that you warned him. You can't just go and say, I warned him 2 or 3 times. You have to have witnesses. 2 witnesses at least to everything. And then you go on trial, and the trial may say, okay, well, yeah, right, okay, you warned them, but this circumstance was this way, or this circumstance was that way, case dismissed, or don't do it again, Pesach. If you do it again, we're going to punish you somehow for it. There's a whole procedure. That's why he says set up a system of courts. That's the very last Noahide commandment is for all of us, set up a court. Okay, Marinella, what did you want to say?
Yes, I just want to share something before, my thoughts disappear. But I think it's very important what you're just saying about Sabbath. How for me before it was like, I feel like I needed to celebrate it. But now, since we've been studying, I have more freedom. And like Terry explained it to us, that we have to acknowledge. But this powerful word that I read this morning is in Isaiah 43, verse 21. God says, I have made Israel for myself, which means God is one with Israel. It's like such a specific declaration from God, I have made Israel for myself. And if God rested on the seventh day, it's enough, like you were saying, you guys have to observe Sabbath to guard and protect what God already ordained. And then continue, the verses, and it says, and they will someday honor me before the whole world. So you have a big responsibility.
Exactly. This is what keeps us together as a group.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good insight, Marinella. It's what keeps the Jews together as a group with everything we've been through in the world for since the Amalekites, since we left Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still dedicated to him, and we're still here to spread his word and to let everybody. He created all of us. He just separated a small group of people to hold and actually guard his Torah. Look, he didn't have to give Torah to Moses on Mount Sinai written, but he did for the whole world to see it and know it. And we have been protecting it ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Even today, there are countries where people are breaking into the synagogue and burning the Torah and desecrating the Torah. They're trying to get rid of God's word. We don't allow it. We die for it. Every morning I put on tefillin. I don't know if you guys know what it is, but it's a little box on my head up here, and around my arm here, I do it in a little box up here, because God said put it on. I have no idea why he wants me to strap up this stuff and put it up. I don't know. We got a lot of people that say, oh, maybe this, maybe that. But he says do it every day, every morning. So I do it without knowing really why. We all do it. We all wear a prayer shawl every morning at morning services. Why? He doesn't tell us why. He says, just wrap yourself that way for morning services. Okay, we'll do it. But every morning when I put them on, I see a picture in front of me of a temple, a synagogue in Jerusalem, 3 years ago, maybe 4 now, where terrorists got in and murdered 4 people. Because when you're in prayer, you're not looking at the door. You're looking towards the Ark of the Covenant where the Torah is kept, and you're praying in a certain direction. He came in and murdered 4 Jews that were praying in the morning. In the newspaper, because we don't run the real gory pictures here in Israel, the picture they showed was just an arm laying like this, kind of with tefillin on it, the prayer shawl over the shoulder. You didn't see the face, you didn't see anything else, there was just blood surrounding it. And for me, that has become a symbol of what we've been doing for 3,400 years. We've been protecting and guarding God's word. We've been guarding the Shabbat the way he wants us to do it. And he did separate us out, not to be special, not to be better than anybody else, simply to make sure that his word got from Mount Sinai to us right here today.
Amen.
Now, it's for the whole world. It's not just for the Jews. And I don't want to get into bad talking about anything, but there's some rabbis that haven't put it all together yet to understand that those that are not Jews don't have to do any of this stuff we're doing. But they do have to do what we have to do, which is connect to the God of Israel. Calls himself the God of Israel. He is the creator of the whole earth. He wants every single human being to be part of that group. Everybody, not just me, and not just my next door neighbor, not just my wife, but each one of you and every single person in every country around the world. And unfortunately, the way of Christianity has taught things so strongly is that when people walk out of it, they have such every Sunday, when you heard a sermon, maybe not you, but I'm saying in general, there was something talking about how bad Israel is, how disobedient Israel is, how they didn't follow God's word, how somebody else has come along. They have no idea the true understanding of what really the truth is. And these are things that as you talk to people, you may want to talk to them about it. It's a closeness. We're all supposed to be close together as one. We're supposed to stand in front of him as humanity. As humanity. The Jews, for 3,400 years, have been standing before God and praying to him and having total confidence in him and trust in him. And he told us, you're also, when you pray, you're covering the whole world. And a lot of our prayers, lots of times, that's what we talk, every morning we talk about covering the whole world. And that everybody will come to know who he is one day. That not through us, with sword and strength and might, but they're going to connect with God.
Amen.
And they're going to feel that connection. They're going to feel it when they wake up in the morning. They're going to feel it when they go to sleep at night. They're going to feel it when they're driving down the road and somebody cuts them off and they go to get mad at somebody. And say, wait a minute, God wouldn't want me to be mad at him. God would want me to bless him to make sure he gets home to his family safely. It's called conscious living. It's called being aware of life, being aware of God and what he wants. And when you start being aware of God and what he wants, there's a oneness to everything. A total oneness. You, me, the next door neighbor, the guy in Africa, the guy in South America, Russia, it doesn't make any difference where, we're all part of the oneness. And if we just live those 7 laws, all humanity, there will be peace on earth. Period. We don't need somebody to come tell us, I'm going to bring you peace on earth. We're supposed to be doing it. It's part of the instructions of God. We're not supposed to be waiting for someone else to bring us goodwill toward men. We're supposed to do it every day of our lives.
That's kind of why I, in the direction that I try to teach is that the Noahide laws will change your life. And the first thing that we do, people are one of the things they want to do is they want to learn the Noahide laws and then go tell the world. We don't have the commandment to go therefore in all the world. But we change ourselves. And through changing ourselves, we change the world. And we do, in an essence, have there is kind of it's not necessarily a commandment, but it is an instruction from God when he spoke to Cain. If you will improve yourself, you'll be forgiven. That's foundation. Right in the beginning of the Torah, God said, if you will improve yourself. He didn't tell Cain to go and improve all of his brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and whoever was alive at the time. But he said, work on yourself and you will be forgiven.
Exactly right.
He changes the world.
Each one of us has it in the power to change the world, to make the section, a little tiny place we live in, a little bit better. In our home, in our neighborhood, in our city. One person can change a whole thing. Come on now, look at Abraham. One person. He changed the world. He changed the world so much that we have big religions based on Abraham and the genealogy from Abraham. Islam and Islam is also based on that. Although they've changed it around a little bit to suit their needs. But God created the heavens and the earth. He created everything. He created in two levels. We forget that. He created in a fleshly level. Look around your house, look where you're sitting, look at us on the TV screen. That's called the fleshly level. Look at your pet, look at a rock outside, look at the mountains, look at wherever you live and the beautiful scenery. That's the fleshly level. And God created the spiritual level for everybody. And believe me, there's no special hokey pokey to get involved with God spiritually. You, as an individual, He didn't create you. You weren't created in sin. You weren't. God doesn't lie. At the end of creation, He said, "Oh, there's creation. It's all very good." He didn't say, "I created human beings in sin." He doesn't say each human being is created in sin. He says they're all very good. And we've allowed some people to tell us differently than what God truly said. It's become so heavily in us, in our brains, that we think of it. And it's automatic.
It's like yesterday I had a meeting with two guys. I'm part of the Smoky Mountain Bearded Villains. It's a group I've joined, and that we go out and do charity work. We use our beards to do good, to show that not all bearded men are thugs. And so I had lunch with two guys yesterday that was wanting to join our chapter. And one guy's a tattoo artist. I mean, all over tattoos. Found out yesterday he was a former pastor at one time. He'd gone through the ringer of pastor, like me. I've been in the pastorate, and the behind the scenes stuff of a pastorate for someone who is sensitive to things will it will gross them out and they'll want to leave. And that's what we normally don't talk about religion or politics. We kind of stay away from that because it's a division, and we're not there to be divided. We're there to be unified. But religion kind of came up yesterday for the three of us, just three guys, and the one guy, he just pointed out, he said, "Where were you raised?" Well, and we was all talking about how we were raised and what we were raised in, and found out three of us all had a lot of similarities, and kind of talked about where each of us were at right now in our journey. So I shared the Noahide laws with them in a very non-offensive, easy way, and I just let them know. I said the 7 laws that God gave Noah really opened my eyes to something. And they was what? I said, humans aren't evil. Humans may do evil, but they're not evil. And all three of them were just sitting there going, "Wow, that is good."
There you go.
Praise the Lord. That's good.
So I got to share the 7 laws. I didn't intend to do that. I kind of keep that to myself. I work on myself first, but it was kind of an open format, and it wasn't a preaching format, and I didn't use it to beat anybody over the head with, but I used it to unify where the three of us were actually already coming to in our own lives. Why we want to do charity is because we want to do good.
There you go.
The good side of the Noahide laws and how they, can change humanity. We don't kill, we don't murder. And they're all like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah. Look, Deborah put in there Malchut, which is kingship. But, I'm not going to get into it today because it's really complicated, but there's a thing in the Kabbalah of certain levels of things. The highest level is Keter, or crown. And it sits up here. And from that Keter, or crown, we receive the connection with God through that. In the crown, there's a place for 620 jewels. I never knew this before. It's something I learned totally new. And I was wondering, why the heck would there be 620? There's 613 commandments He gave to the Jews. And then it dawned on me, wait a minute, if you take 613 and you take 7, you come up with 620. So in the crown of God, He has a jewel for all of us. All mankind, united in His crown. We're all united together. We're one unit in His crown, each one of us a jewel for each thing that we're supposed to do with Him. And when we don't do it, the one that's kind of above us, we tarnish it. We tarnish that particular jewel for that that particular mitzvah, that particular commandment. So forget that you might have sinned. Think what you're doing to your Creator, who you're supposed to have a love relationship with. You threw a little mud on his crown. How would you feel if you got a little mud on the king's crown? You pick up a rag and you just, oh, let me take care of this for you. Let me clean it up right away. This is called living consciously. Not just living, but living consciously. We are all sparks of the divine. That is true. We all have that divine spark in us. We're all connected to him. When we're looking at this picture, all of us here, each one of us, there's something here we don't see in this picture. What you don't see is that connection that Terry has over him that goes directly to God, and Troy, and Veronica, and Leonore, and Marinella, and Carla, and Devorah, and me. Direct connection. It's there. We just can't see it because it's not in our ability to see it, but it's there. The connection direct to him. So if I go like this and pull on it, do something wrong, he knows it's me. He knows what I'm doing wrong. If I do something right, I don't have to pull on it. The upward flow, see, when you do something right, it flows up to him through that connection. And he knows it. He knows it. Hold on let me just do this real quick. Hi. Yeah, let me call you, but yes, I am. Let me call you back in about 45 minutes in the middle of a teaching. Okay. All right.
You know, that answers a question that I've recently had in some of my studies. You know, you're always reading their cries came to me or came before me, like the cries of Nineveh, the cries of Sodom came to me. And it's the people that, because each one of us have that divine spark, that upward flow, whether we know it's there or not, that's how that reaches Hashem, how it reaches the throne, even really without you even, say, deliberately praying about it.
Right.
When you have an ache that is going on, you know, whether physical or spiritual, it flows up to the Creator immediately.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's cool.
And you know what? When you do the upward flow, it elicits a divine response back down. If you don't do the upward flow, you don't get the divine response back down, except once in a while, they'll do a little something to kind of jiggle your string, wake you up a little bit. And then it's up to you to respond to that. He'll put some situation in front of you that he wants you to handle. It could be somebody needs some money, or somebody needs help crossing the street, or somebody needs a ride home, or whatever. He puts it in front of you and you make a decision. Yeah, I'm going to do it. No, I'm not. When you do it, you're returning to him what he said, the little spark he sent down to you, the little jiggle of the string. And you're saying, okay, I got this. And you're doing it. If you don't do it, he knows you didn't do it too. Conscious living. Conscious living. And it's a huge, huge understanding. God does things to elicit responses from us, so that he'll send something down, so we'll elevate something to him, or we may elevate something to him and he'll send a response down. It's an amazing way to live. Marinella says she goes through life looking for miracles all day long. They're right in front of you, pop, pop, pop. They're coming out.
Can you read it?
Yeah, right. Life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness. That's true. But life is God. So he's constantly lovingly reaching out to you. Now, once in a while, And the Jews do it. You guys read about. Hey, if the 40 years in the desert had been all good news, you wouldn't have nothing to read. You get bored of reading. But what he shows you there is what we didn't do right, to show you how to correct what you do wrong. That's the reason it's like that. We're just moving into the section of Bible called Leviticus, I think, in English.
Yeah.
In Hebrew, it's called Vayikra.
Yeah.
That means God called out. And it starts off Vayikra Moshe. He called to Moses. He called to the Jews. And the whole book is nothing about what he called us, is everything about what he called us to do. And most people that have read and reread the Bible, they'll read up to Vayikra, Leviticus, and they close it. No, that's not for me, or I don't need to understand all that stuff. And mainly people that are non-Jewish do that. You need this to read it for. But it's very important. The sacrificial system is a very important system that we use to connect with God. And he wants all of us to do it. Because in Hebrew, the word for sacrifice is not sacrifice like it is in English. Let's go sacrifice something to God. Let's go sacrifice. It doesn't mean sacrifice at all. It means to come close to.
Korban.
Korban means to come close to. Litkarev, to come closer to God. And that he wants every single person to do. And he sacrifices, no sacrifices. You can do it with your mouth. You can speak out to him that you're sorry, that you apologize, that you repent, and he just accepts it. You don't have to go through a big whole rigmarole. There's even a prophecy in there about I don't need the meat of your sacrifices, and yada da da da. I'm looking for a sacrifice from your lips. It doesn't mean that one replaces the other because they're both identically the same. It means come close to me. Come close to me. Matter of fact, these animal sacrifices were so important to him that if I, a little pauper on the street, felt I had sinned and I have to do something and I can't afford a bull, I don't have to go out and steal to buy the bull. He says, bring me 2 turtle doves. And if you can't do that, bring me 2 young doves. Whatever you can afford. If you can't do that, bring me a meal offering. Just bring me something that shows your intent that when you come to the house of prayer. The Bet HaMikdash is a house of prayer for all people. All people. And if a non-Jew went up there and said, I sinned and here's a bull, the same exact words are said whether you're Jew or non-Jew. The Kohanim say the same exact words to God in your behalf. And he says the same words whether you bring a bull or you bring a meal offering, a handful of grain. The important point is that you turn to God and you say, look, I know I made a mistake. I know I made a mistake. I'm not going to do it anymore. And if you do it again, so you bring another one and he'll say, okay, again, I'll forgive you.
So the Korban was really a physical acknowledgement of what you were actually, you're saying it with your words, with your mind and your heart, but the Korban was also the physical acknowledgement of what you're trying to say.
Right. Marinella, you wanted to say something?
Yes, what you just said about the bowl of sacrifice, it reminds me the first time I visited, the hotel. I was so excited to get there, but my anxiety was because I had a lot of prayers that I wanted to present, and it was the first thing I wanted to do when I visit Israel. And now I understand the excitement I had because God loves that we present something. And I was, I didn't have the knowledge that I have now, but I was bringing a bowl of prayers before his his presence in such a sacred moment for my life.
Yes, that's good. And everybody should at least come and try to get here once in their life. It's a very exciting moment because each and every one of us people on this earth, when you go there, if you allow it to happen, and you have to allow it to happen, you can't say, oh, I'm here by this temple, I don't know about it, and the Jews are bad or whatever. God's presence, not his presence, but the power of his presence is still there. It's like when you light a big bonfire, in the morning you go over and touch the ground, it's still warm. The power of his presence is still there. You can feel it in your body when you put your hand on the wall. But only if you are open to it, only if you can allow yourself to do that. And if it ever happens and you don't feel it and you prepared yourself for it, don't get upset. You know, it's like anything that needs fine tuning, you really, really have to be prepared for it. Mm-hmm. The point is, God created everything good. He didn't create any human being evil. Study his word, don't study his word, doesn't make any difference, absolutely, really. The deeper spiritual relationship you want to have with him has to come from learning how to have that contact to be spiritual. It has to be done by a leader, that teacher that can teach you how to do it. There isn't anything on this earth that you can't do, that you read a book and just, okay, I'm going to do it this way and that way and that way and get it right. People study for years to do professions, even to do trades. They study for years. But everybody thinks, man, I got this about God, man. I just know because something inside of me is telling me this or that. And what you do when you do that is you make an idol out of yourself. You've replaced God already. No matter what you think, that's what he's thinking. You have to serve an apprenticeship. You have to learn. We will all be surprised when we go to the other side. That's for sure. All of us are going to be surprised. We don't know why God does things. We don't know why he makes the decisions he makes. It's up to us to say, yes, sir, we will do what you say. We will learn later. This is what the Jews told him at Mount Sinai. Just tell us what you want us to do. You can tell us later why, but just tell us what you want us to do and we will do it. We made the commitment before we even heard it. This is what every human being has to do to God. Yes, God, I will do what you say. Now, you don't sit there and, okay, what are you going to tell me to do today, God? No. You do it by having a guide you through what he's already said and the meanings of what he's already said. Now, you don't have to do deep studies if you don't want to, but you have to know the basics. And once you know the basics, you go into, I'm going to use the words again, conscious living. Everything you do will be thought in one way only. Is this what God wants you to do at this point in time? But you don't sit and wait for an answer. You have to know, wait a minute, God gave me a set of rules. Am I breaking them or not? Yeah. So the Musar movement's one of them. But you don't have to, and Terry's doing some good teachings right now, daily teaching on that in the B'nai Noach Connection to Israel, Torah for the Nations. But nobody has to go more than what they can handle. You know what? If God wanted us to be perfect and our souls to be perfect, he never would have sent them down here to live in flesh and blood. He would have kept them right where they were. They were fine and perfect before they ever came down here on this earth. He sent them down for the trip back. That's what he sent us down here for. And what he wants from us each and every day, he wants this, he demands this. Progress, not perfection. He had perfection. Every soul was perfect. My soul was perfect before I get down here, and it got all muddied up with what I'm doing down here. It's the same for everybody. why did he do this? I don't know. I mean, some people try to tell you they know. But hello, David. Are you with us?
Hey, David. His volume might be off. He said he was having some problem with his volume.
Hello, David. Shalom, David.
I don't think he's got his mic on.
Yeah, okay. The main thing here is we have to know, each and every one of us, Jew and non-Jew, God created you. He created you good, and he created you because he loves you, and he loves the world. He wants to do these things. If he wanted to make you, if he expected you to be perfect, you'd have been perfect, because he never would have brought you down, sent the soul down here. Why should he? He's looking for perfection. We call it a going down for the purpose of going back up. I wish David would. Hello, David. Microphone. Activate your microphone. He's missing the button that says use the computer voice. The computer.
Right, send him a message, text him something.
I did. I texted him because we're friends. We've been long-time friends on Facebook. So he told me he was having a problem. I think he's using his phone and getting the mic turned on. So I sent him a message that his audio was off.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That the bread of shame is that's a pretty deep study to go into, and we're already almost running out of time, but we'll do a whole different stuff on the bread of shame. But when you talk to people, he's trying to, okay. The main thing here is for everyone, every human being, to remember that all of us were created equally. We were created to do a job here on earth, and our job is to do what we're supposed to do, and your job is what you're supposed to do. And you're looking for your job, start off with just the 7. That. Just do the 7, and it's a start. Now, if somebody has questions and wants to know some deeper things, we're more than happy to answer any question anybody has. You can message me or message Terry, or if you want to meet with me on a personal basis on Facebook, Pesach Sherbow, let me know through Messenger, or the Messenger. I think there's a Messenger set up also on B'nai Noach Connection to Israel. You can send me a message. Willing to help with anything at all. Veronica, did you just come in? No, Veronica's been here the whole time, right? Okay.
For a while.
Not the whole time. I was a little bit late.
Oh, okay. My mind's going woo, woo, woo today. Yes.
Pesach, I just want to add that what you just mentioned about live a conscious living. Me and my niece were been studying more about, how we have to be more aware of our thoughts and transform it, because there's a lot of garbage there that we need to start being aware. And I believe, that probably we're walking into that time, it might be prophetic, that where people are going to start wondering, that our conscious has a lot of things, that affect our life if we're not aware. especially
Well,
negative thoughts and negative information.
and it might not even be negative thoughts. It can just be a way that it's, God, but really, you know, I'm going to go watch a sitcom. What's negative about that? But the sitcom, without us thinking about it, rolls into things today on TV that we're not supposed to be talking about, thinking about, or anything, but we don't, because we have changed our level of understanding of what is good and what is bad, because the whole world is turning around, just like in the prophecies. Good is bad and bad is good. You see it every day, especially in the United States and across Europe. And it's, you know, and this terrible thing happened in New Zealand. And we have people that think like that, and those people will be eliminated, I'm sure, from the world. There's no room for that kind of thing. Nobody's any better or any worse than anybody else on this earth. We're all the same. We're all one. We're all one. And we're all one, and we're all part of Him as a one, as a unit, as an entity. There's 7 billion people on the earth, and we're all one. There's the earth, and we're all one. God created the heavens, which is the spirituality, and the earth, which is the fleshly. And He gave it to us as a home. And I like the way you put it today, Terry, in your blog about it being a blank canvas, because that's what He did. He said, okay, He told the Jews, here's what I want you to do. And He puts all kinds of stuff in those 5 books. Then He sends prophets to tell us more things, and He gives us someone like Solomon, who does the book of Proverbs, who does Ecclesiastes. He gives us David, who gives us the Psalms. And he says, okay, I've given you all the information. I've told you, keep or guard the Shabbat. You guys do it the way you're supposed to do it. He doesn't say, here's what you do, A, B, C, D, E. He says, okay, Jews, here's what I want from you. Okay, the rest of the world, here's what I want from you. That's all He does. And how we do it is important. Now, before we sign off, I got to make a little bit of we don't charge anything for our teachings or anything. We don't charge anybody any money for anything. And we have some people that are helping us out financially. We have a center in Tzfat where we talk to people all day long, where people can come and visit us here in Tzfat. We're out to spread the word, so to speak. It's giving information. We need help financially. We got rent to pay. To be quite honest with you, I'm just saying so you understand where we're coming from, because we don't charge for any of this. But I told Shira, I'm parking the car at the end of this month because I have money to pay for registration and insurance for another year, because all the money we had went out already. And there's a few people helping us out on a regular basis, and we appreciate it. Any little amount helps. But if you know any organizations, you know anybody that might be interested in helping us out and support the center and support the work we do, it would be much appreciated if you could help us out. We need the help. Now, I wouldn't be talking about it if we didn't, because I won't charge anybody for anything. Some of the guys say, oh, why don't you just you counsel people? Why don't you charge them $95 an hour? I said, no, that's not my job. My job is to do what people need, and hopefully God takes care of the rest. And not hopefully. And I wanted to talk about this week, and I forgot all about it. We're going to do it. I'm going to write it down so we do it next week. I want to talk about faith in God. Because faith in God is a lot different than what most people coming out of other religions think it is. So, Terry, can you help me remember, please, this old man, if you can help me remember?
I'm going to make a note right here.
Okay. So I get those of you that follow me on Facebook know that this week was my birthday week on the Christian calendar. It's another 2 weeks on the Hebrew calendar. And God, you know, God says, I guess in one of the Psalms, if you live a good life and you're good, you get 70 years, and if you're really strong, you get 80 years. And I'm sitting here every morning. I read this in the prayers and I go, my goodness, I just turned 74. What's going to happen? It's just something you think about when you get older. I'm just throwing that out there. Thank you for your blessings.
I'm going to put in a little thing here too. Pesach is not asking for like donations like you hear from different ones. When we come to the Jewish teachings, there's a thing called tzedakah. And it's translated as charity, but it's not charity. Charity is what you think you give that's from yourself. Tzedakah is taking what belongs to God and putting it in its proper place. And Torah for the Nations has an amazing role in helping Noahides learn the Noahide laws, helping Jews learn what the Noahide laws are. And so when we all have, an opportunity to put what God has given us, we can turn around and help put that back in its proper place. But because it's all God to begin with, He gives us stuff to see what we will do with it, just like the 7 laws. He gives each one of us the 7 laws, like what I wrote on, and then like a painter palette. Here's the paint. Now let's see the picture you paint. And the 7 laws is the same way. He wants us to see what we will create in this world by using the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 laws. He doesn't tell us it has to look like this or it has to look like that. No, here's the raw material. Now, I've created this and I've given you part of it. Now let's see what you create. And that's what we're doing with Torah of the Nations. We're taking the 7 laws and we're trying to create, this community, this humanity that is pleasing to the Creator.
And one more request I have. Any of you that have Facebook pages, websites, blogs, anything, I would appreciate if you could put some kind of link there back to me and to Torah for the Nations, so that we can just get more people interested, more people see us. I believe, this is, now I'm going to tell you anybody told me this, but I believe in, and if I told you the whole story where I get to this point right here in time, that God put me on footsteps years ago that led me to me sitting here in this chair and talking to you guys today. And so this is what I have to do, and I just trust Him and I have faith that He's going to taking care of my needs. I'm not asking to be rich, because God says He's created every living being and their needs, and He satisfies their needs. It's in the Torah. It doesn't say you're going to be a wealthy person. It doesn't say you can have yachts. But He says, I created you and the needs that you have, and I will make sure that the needs are covered. And I trust in that 100%. 100%. Psalm 145. Yeah, I'm glad I got somebody so much younger to remember things much quicker than I can. Thank you, Terry. Yeah. So if anybody can just publicize it, maybe next week we can get a few more. Oh, look at that little puppy dog.
Oh.
So, look, I want to just leave you guys with this blessing, that it should be God's will that each and every one of you will, in the next week, will touch somebody's life with something you say or do in your conscious living that you do every day, that will let them wake up to the fact that they need to do conscious living also. Amen.
Amen.
That's not, I'm not saying go evangelize, live the life. They'll know it.
Amen.
God bless you all. See you next week.